Shalom, and welcome to another edition here on the Genesis 49ers page, where we say no to vague interpretation and we give thorough breakdowns.
Genesis 49ers, we back but never moving backwards. Here to put Israel on the atlas. Y'all know the slogan. We say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdowns. Now today's topic is going to be a goodie. It's going to be a classic. We have to touch on the women, right? This is a follow-up from my last lecture that I did about 2 weeks ago about the prominent women of Israel. Because we have proponents of Kemet coming against our culture, saying that the Israelite tradition is misogynistic. My first presentation, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't saw it yet, pause this video and go watch it. And then come back to this video and then watch this, because this is a continuation of that demonstration that I did 2 weeks ago. And we show without a shadow of a doubt that the women are involved in this tradition. They have prominent roles in this tradition. They become queens, prophetess, priestess in this tradition. They are loved in this tradition. They are honorable in this tradition, commemorated in this tradition. So anybody telling you that the Israelite tradition is misogynistic, they are bearing false witness on your history, on your ancestral abode, on your tradition. Because we are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. We are the Israelites of history. And guess what? Here at Genesis 49ers, we are creating the polyhistorians of the world. Right? We're molding scholars. We're here to set this thing on a new plateau, taking it to the next level. I don't know about all the brothers and sisters watching, but just knowing we're Israelite is not good enough. We have to be able to expound on these topics. Because what will happen is someone that's outside of our school of thought may come in and say something to you. And if you're not rooted, you're going to be carried away by every wind of doctrine, as the scripture says. Why? Because you're not rooted. Genesis 49ers, we are the husbandry of the Lord. We are the husbandry of our ancestors. We're here to root you, plant you, water you, feed you, give you the nutrients so you can survive in this present day, in this world. We want Israel to succeed. And the first thing we need to tackle is scholarship. My prayers and my efforts is to turn this, I don't want this just to be a YouTube channel or a YouTube effort. I want this to grow into something bigger. I want this to turn into a learning center. And the first thing I'm going to attack in our community is the illiteracy rate. The literacy rate needs to raise. We need to bring that thing up high. Reading and comprehension is something that our community lacks. But we're here to restore order and rise the dead bones that we find in Ezekiel. To raise the dead bones and put flesh and identity and give all of their history back. So we can combat what's called black infidelity, white supremacy. These are the elements that are plaguing our people. So, not to go too far or astray from the actual topic, the topic is Prominent Women of Israel Part 2. We're going to go right into it to the first slide, and you can see Shirah. It says, an early Israelite woman of repute because she built cities. The cities are named Beth Horon and Usen Shirah. And Usen Shirah denotes a portion of Shirah. Strong's H242. So wait a minute. If our tradition is so misogynistic and against women, why do we give honor and credence to a woman building 2 cities? And one of the cities is called the portion of a Shirah. which Shirah means our kinswoman, right? And then also I threw in here, and here's the scripture right here, 1 Chronicles 7 verse 24. And his daughter was Shirah, who built Beth Haran, the nether and upper, and Uzan Shirah. This is in the Bible. That some proponents of Kemet is claiming the text that you're claiming is misogynistic. But I'm bringing this out for the brothers and for especially you sisters, so you won't be misled. Your scriptures honor women. Now, this is what the scriptures do. The scriptures and the text is against wicked women, just like it's against wicked men. Read Kings. Every wicked man, King Ahab, Manasseh, King Amun, they committed idolatry. They killed their own people. Okay. They led our people astray, and the Most High dealt with them accordingly. So the Most High is about righteousness and wickedness. He supports the righteous. He judges the wicked. It's that simple. But if it's a righteous act the sister did that's worth commemoration, she gets honored. There's nothing wrong with that. So you can't say the text is misogynistic. You are misrepresenting what the text is actually displaying. So Shirah, she is known, she went down in history as, from a daughter of Ephraim, by the way, as a woman who commissioned the building of Beth Haran and Uzan Shirah. She's accredited with that. So Baf, meaning daughter in Hebrew, right? You have this name right here, Strong's H4447, Molech. Molech. You know what? Let me go back. I added this as well. Shua was a daughter of Asher, right? Her name, according to Strong's H7774, means wealth. Now, why would you name her that? Or why would she have that name if we didn't honor our women? Right? If we didn't look at our women as the jewels or rubies, right? A wise woman is like jewelry, man. So let's get to the next one. Baf, Molech, right? That means the queen, according to Strong's H4447. This is a very lofty title or name for a woman of Israel. And you find it in 1 Chronicles 7, verse 18. And his sister Hamelech bare Eshad, Abizer, and Mahalah. But her name meant the queen. And it's also going for you brothers that are teaching, oh, we don't use the word queen. The word queen is just a title of nobility. If you're going to use the word king, you have to use the word queen. Because guess what? Kings and queens have princesses and princes. It's just a succession of nobility. It's an honorable title. Stop teaching dogmatic sentiments to our people, because you have a personal disagreement with a certain diction. But you find this word being applied in the ancient text to women. So you can't throw that misogynistic card over here. You can't play that card. Every time you do that, Genesis 49ers will be there on our scholastic bully, right? Ready to debunk and tear down any foundation that you're trying to set, any false notion that you're trying to set against our community. Next slide. So I pray that you women especially are taking notes, meticulous notes on this, writing down the source material, because you're going to be the ones that are targeted by these proponents of Kemet and other factions that are trying to rip you away from your ancestral tradition. Now, where do we find queen in the Bible? It's Psalms 45 and verse 9. King's daughters were among thy honorable women. Wait a minute. The scriptures just called them honorable women. I thought it was misogynistic. I thought the Bible is not for black women. I thought it was against you. But wait a minute. It says king's daughters were among thy honorable women. Upon thy right hand did stand the queen in gold of Ophir. So that's a cut for anybody that's trying to push this misogynistic regime or trying to label the text as being misogynistic, hateful towards women. How so? When we find Example after example after example. Oh, this is the exception to the... Why do we keep seeing this? It's a sentiment that's being painted over and over again and displayed over and over again, demonstrated over and over again. King's daughters were among thy honorable women. Upon thy right hand did stand the queen in gold of Ophir. That's crystal clear. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Again, we say no to vague interpretations and we give what? Thorough breakdowns. That's what we do here on Genesis 49ers. Now, let's go to Kemet. Let's jump in a time machine, and I want all you guys to get your plane tickets, go to Travelocity or whatever, or what have you. Get your tickets. We're going to jump on a plane, and we're going to fly to Kemet or Egypt, and we're going to see how the Jewish community did there, right? Let's see some of their practices here. It says the praying women are also prominent. The praying women are also prominent in the group known as the Therapeutic, right? Or Therapeutic, which is Greek for healers or worshipers. That's where we get the word therapy from. It means to heal. If someone says therapeutic, it means it's healing. So that's what that group was known for. The Greek for healers or worshipers, known to us from Philo. This was a Jewish group of pietists and ascetics in Egypt who gathered regularly for communal eating. So these are prominent women of repute and renown. What were they doing? They were studying, praying, and singing in their ardent yearning for wisdom. So they were known as a wise sect of women. Studious. Right? This is women of our tradition and of our faith. But when you have a limited understanding of the Israelite tradition and the paradigm, then you will make silly claims and statements that is misogynistic. If that was true, Jabari, because that's one of the main ones that harp on this over and over again. If that was true, Dr. Mayat, why do we find a whole community of prominent women in ancient Egypt, right? In antiquity, right? Why do we see this? Around the 1st century, right? And that the source is from the Maccabees to the Mishnah by Shei J.D. Cohen, page 76. For all the naysayers out there and all the people that's going against our tradition, and again, I pray that the women that are watching are taking notes, because they are coming after you. They're spreading propaganda and lies to get you distorted, get you confused, so you can do what? Leave the tradition. We're here to reform and create and grow. I want the scholarship of our community to grow. I want our brothers and sisters to be sharp. We need to learn this information and learn our history. We don't need to be going 100 miles per hour in this truth. We need to be going 150 miles per hour. That's how I look at this. And that's how I treat it. That's why at Genesis 49ers, all we do is study and bring the information to the people. And again, we want this to grow into something else. Learning centers. Hopefully we can get a learning center in every state. That's my goal. My lifelong goal. This is a war against ignorance. You are ignorant if you're saying that our tradition is misogynistic. You are very ignorant to try to paint with a broad stroke that sentiment on the whole tradition. A tradition that you know little about. Let's go to the next slide. So we prove emphatically that you had a group of renowned women, prominent women, wise women in Egypt that were Jewish. So let's go to the next slide. Now let's go into the writings of the rabbi. When I mention the rabbis, it's usually from the Talmud, Mishnah or the Midrash. Now, a lot of people have a negative view about the Talmud because some things in there are questionable. But you have to understand something. The Talmud is not a document like the Bible, right? It's rabbis, excuse me, it's rabbis going back and forth about doctrine. Like, for example, you might have a rabbi saying that a wife should be able to sue, and another rabbi will go against that sentiment. Now, the rabbi that was saying that she should sue was right. That she should be able to sue is right. Or she should be able to get her dowry if her husband dies was right. Now, the rabbi that went against her is wrong. So, more of the story, you got to learn how to chew the meat and spit out the bones. But let's get right into this, what Rabbi Tanhum stated. Rabbi Tanhum stated in the name of Rabbi Hananiah, any man who has no wife lives without joy, without blessing, and without goodness. Pay attention to the adjectives that he's using to describe this. He said if you don't have a wife, you're living without joy, without blessing, and without goodness. How is that misogynistic? Huh? This is how much we treasured woman. Right? It says, without joy, for it is written, and thou shalt rejoice, thou in thy house. Without blessing, for it is written, to cause a blessing to rest on thy house. And without goodness, for it is written, it is not good that the man should be alone. And that's written in Rabbi Yebamoth 62a. But many of you would express the notion that, oh, the Israelite tradition is completely misogynist. It's just against women. So why do we find sentiments? Why do we find writings that are diametrically opposed to what you're saying? Next slide. Let's deal with the mother. So Rabbi Yosef heard his mother's footsteps. He would say, I will stand before the arriving divine presence. That's how he described his mother. And that's from the Kiddushin 31b. Now, that doesn't mean he was worshiping or idolatrous worship. He just denoted her as a divine presence. How is this tradition misogynistic again? Are you making that broad statement against us again? When throughout our culture, I am illustrating to you that we are diametrically opposed to that sentiment. That we honored our women and we honored our mothers. And I just want to take a second to shout out James C. Lewis, because he is bringing the scriptures to life with his photography, by depicting the ancient Israelites as being Negroid. What we've been telling you for years. And that's what you see to the right. A depiction of Bathsheba, right? The mother of Solomon. Which also I covered in my first video, that she sat right next to Solomon as he ruled. While he was on the throne, she had a throne too. So why are you not discussing this? Why are we not teaching this? We have to bring this out. There's material for the women as well. There should be a corpus of knowledge for the women as well. So again, you sisters watching, take notes. You brothers watching that have wives or daughters, you need to be taking notes, so you can share this information with them. Or give them the video. Next slide. Talmud. Again, it says, concerning a man who loves his wife as himself, who honors her more than himself. How in the, you know what, is the Israelite tradition misogynistic if we're finding sentiments as such? Like such, right? It says, who honors her more than himself, who guides his sons and daughters in the right path and arranges for them to be married near the period of their puberty. Scripture says, and thou shalt know that thy tent is in peace. The source is Rabbi Yebamoth 62a. So why are we finding this? This is showing you that the Israelite men honored their women more than themselves. Why? Because you're looking out. You're the head of the house. That's another thing. A lot of people are getting upset or offended by the term head of the house. Why is the man the head of the house? And the people that are in Kemet, You're being disingenuous because the oldest Kemetic text, the Maxims of Ptah-hotep, tells you that the man's the head of the house. Tells you that he's in control. So you're being a hypocrite and spreading misinformation. Just because a man's the head of the house doesn't equal oppression for women. That's what you're looking at it as. That's what pops in your head. Oh, that means I'm going to be oppressed. No. Here it states, a man who loves his wife as himself, who honors her more than himself. How do you get oppression out of that? The scriptures also illustrate that the delicate woman, that her feet wouldn't even touch the ground. The Israelite men would spoil their women. They would spoil them in the ancient days. Why? Because on those times we were considered rich. When we were trading and exporting goods, right? We were considered rich. And our women lived lavish lives. So where's the misogyny again? Oh, okay. Let's go to the next slide. Now, let's deal with this because we have to understand our history. Our history is rich. It's rich with inscriptions, poems, parallels, prophecy. So we have to deal with it. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, why don't you just deal with the Bible? No, we have to go deeper than the Bible. The Bible gives us, in certain cases, vague descriptions. So we have to go outside of it to, corroborate a more clear image for our people. So now we're dealing with Marin, right? It says in 4 inscriptions, women bear the title Ireria, Ires, or Iresi. The oldest Greek epitaph on a stele dated to 27 BCE is from Tel El Yahudiyah in Lower Egypt. It states, O Marin, priestess, good and a friend to all. So this is a priestess, right? Causing pain to no one and loving to your relatives. Farewell. She died at the age of approximately 50 years in the 3rd year Augustus on the 13th day of Piney, and this equals June 7, 27 BCE. So again, we have another prominent woman that she was honored, right? An inscription on her sepulcher honored her as a priestess, and they gave her glory and honor for her living a good life and a righteous life. And the source is Jewish inscriptions of Greco-Roman Egypt by W. Horbury, page 84. This is scholarship. We're not just making claims on Genesis 49ers. We're proving it. We're proving our claims. We're backing it up and substantiating our claims. So that's why when these guys like Jabari speak on Sonetta, why don't they substantiate their claims? You know why? Because they know little about the tradition that's in question. But in Genesis 49ers, you're going to know about the tradition. You're going to learn about the Israelites here on this channel. Next slide. So Gizbarit is a title of a treasurer. Okay, so we're going to deal with the information. It says Rabbi Yirmiyah said that we are dealing in the Mishnah with a woman who is a treasurer for charity. A woman with that occupation typically wears a ring with a seal on her finger in order to perform her job. She does not, though, wear it as an ornament. Rabbi Bar Hana said that Rabbi Yohanan said, you answered and explained why, in the case of a woman, she should be liable to bring a sin offering. So that source is Rabbi Shabbat 62 and 8. Now this proves that women had prominent roles. This was a highly prominent role, usually filled by men. But a woman filled this position as treasurer. We see this written in the Mishnah, right? So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hasmonean. We have to go and look into these different periods of time. And during the Hasmonean dynasty, Israel was back governing again, right? They were a political body. So now let's look at it. It says the noble women of the Hasmonean house, especially Salome Alexandra, who reigned. This is a woman of Israel now. She reigned in Israel. It says who reigned from 76 to 67 BCE, took a prominent role in public affairs. Now, if our tradition is so misogynistic, this shouldn't exist. Slide after slide, presentation after presentation, I am demonstrating how that sentiment that Israelite tradition is misogynistic is completely false. It's a farce. And you brothers are willfully ignorant because you want to push your propaganda on our people. And the sources from the Maccabees to the Mishnah by Shei J.D. Cohen, page 75. This is the rule with no co-regent, which we're going to get into in a minute. But let's go to the next slide. Queen Salome, right? It says, so Alexandra, when she had taken the fortress, acted as her husband suggested her, and spake to the Pharisees and put all things in power. She's the one that's accredited for giving the Pharisees the role that they got, because she was trying to bring Israel together, because they were split into different sects as far as the Pharisees, Essenes, Sadducees, and they were fighting amongst each other. So she was trying to have a united front. So all you brothers that's teaching that the Idumeans started the Pharisee sect, no, the Pharisees are before the Idumeans. And the one who put them in position was Salome Alexandra, a queen of Israel. And that source is Josephus, and I believe the Antiquities of the Jews, book 13, chapter 16, first sentence. And it says how Alexandra, by gaining the goodwill of the Pharisees, retained the kingdom 9 years, and then had done many glorious actions, died at the age of 70. This is what our tradition teaches. We had a queen named Salome Alexandra. Many people don't know about her, right? But we here at Genesis 49ers, this is why we do the research. This is why we provide the empirical data, so you can learn. And I'm praying that you're taking notes. Next slide. So let's deal with the list of rulers. You got Jonathan Maccabeus that ruled between 153 to 142 BC. You had Simon Maccabeus, Simon Maccabeus, 142 to 134 BC. John Hyrcanus, 134 to 104 BC. And Aristobulus, also king, ruled 104 to 103. Alexander Jannaeus, also king, 103 to 76 BC. Then you have Alexandria, Salome, which was queen, that ruled 76 to 67 BC. And then who followed her was John Hyrcanus II as high priest. Then he ruled as king. Then he became governor of the people. And this was from a period from 76. And then he became ethnarch of Judea, 76 to 40 BC, right? And then Aristobulus II, 66 to 63 BC. Antiochus, 40 to 37 BC. And that was the end of the Hasmonean period. Excuse me. Then you had the Idumeans come in under Herod around this time, right? But I wanted to point out Alexandria Salome was a queen of Israel, and she was a sole regent for 9 to 10 years. Now let's deal with these sole regents, because Egypt's only got, I believe, 4. Ancient Egypt only got 4 that ruled by themselves, and 3 actually if you subtract Cleopatra, I believe. But don't quote me on that. But let's see how many Israel has recorded, right? We have Deborah, who ruled the most. She ruled the longest. Her title was Shaphat, or judge, right? Which is Strong's H8199. It means to judge, govern, vindicate, punish. Wait a minute. This is a woman of high stature in Israel that ruled by herself. Sole regent. She didn't share the regency with no one else. It says she was to judge, govern, and vindicate and punish. And she ruled from 1107 to 1067 BC, 40 years. You had Queen Makkah, right? She ruled from 911 to 908 BC. Then you had Queen Athaliah, 84 to 835 BC. Then you had Queen Ditto of Carthage, 825 to 814. And I got a question mark there because scholars are still up in the air of how long she ruled and what was the date of her death. So 825 to 814 BC, the Queen of Carthage, the founder of Carthage, was an Israelite. How do we know that? How do we ascertain that? Because Haram was an Israelite, and she descends from Haram. Now you go all the way to Queen Salome Alexandra, 76 to 67 BC. Then you got Queen Kohina, 695 to 700 AD or CE. So that's 6 queens that ruled as a sole region in Israel. We have 6 queens that ruled, that were Israelite women, right? Egypt only has 4. 3, man. Really 3. So we're winning in that category anyway. So we the real polyhistorians of the world, and we're going to bring the truth to our people about our tradition. Next slide. So yeah, it gets worse. Let's go here. Well, for us it gets better, but for those that oppose the doctrine, it's going to get worse for you when I read this. So the leaders, it says a Greek inscription, probably 2nd century CE, from Smyrna, Ionia, reads Rufina, a Jew, head of the synagogue. So we had women that were head of the synagogue. Now this shouldn't be no surprise to you if we had women like Deborah ruling for 40 years in the ancient texts, okay? In the 10th century. It shouldn't be no surprise to you that we see in the 2nd century CE that you had a sister named Rufina that was the head of a synagogue. And they built this tomb for her free slaves and the slaves raised in her house. No one else has the right to bury anyone here. If someone should dare to do so, he or she will pay 1,500 dinars to the sacred treasury and 1,000 dinars to the Jewish people. A copy of the inscription has been placed in the public archives. And the source is Ancient Jewish Epitaphs by M. Kramer, page 59 through 60. So it's a wrap, man. How? Misogyny where? Misogyny who? You can clearly see that she was the head of a synagogue. For anybody that's talking about her servants or whatever, our tradition allows that. And it's not what we've seen in the transatlantic slavery. So do not get those two mixed up. I am going to do a lecture based off of that. Because people will be like, oh, the Bible permits slavery. Yeah, but you don't know what type of slavery. Okay? In our tradition, you weren't allowed to maim your slave. If you did, you had to free them. You couldn't just beat them for no reason. It's barely even recognizable or you can't even compare the two. The compare and contrast level is too great to even compare it with what we've seen in America. So that's a side note for any hecklers on the channel that may comment about that. But the point I want to bring out is Rufina was a Jewess, right? Was a woman, and she was the head of a synagogue. She was a prominent woman. Next slide. Now we have women that were elders. The following Greek inscription, 4th to 5th century, comes from Kissamos in Crete. Sophia of Gortyn, elder, which is Presbyteria, and the head of the synagogue of Kissamos here. The memory of the righteous one forever. Amen. So she was commemorated. She was commemorated as an elder and the head of the synagogue. How's it? Look, we showing you more prominent women. How am I showing you prominent women after prominent woman after prominent woman after prominent woman if we are entrenched in the misogynistic culture? I mean, this is a body bag at this point. The source is Sukra by Von de Horst, pages 37 through 38. Head of the synagogue. Sophia, Sister Sophia, right? And Sophia means wisdom in Greek, right? She's an elder and head of the synagogue, and it said the memory of the righteous one forever. They commemorated her with high honors. High honor. She was highly honored and highly favored by the community. Next slide. I'm going to give you more, right? It says a donative inscription, probably 6th century, carved into the top of the chancel stream post, comes from Mendos in Kadia, Turkey, and reads from Theopemepete, head of the synagogue. So we have another sister that's head of a synagogue. The title appears in abbreviated form, Archisian, and her son Eusebius. The source Sucra by M. Cranar, page 218. So we give you another one. We give you another one. Again, source after source after source is illustrating to you that we had plenty of prominent women in Israel in the Israelite tradition. Now, let's go to the next slide. The presby, which is short for the elders, right? Jewish catacombs of Italy, tomb of Manin, elder Presbyteri, daughter of Longinus, tomb of Faustina. She was called an elder. Okay. Pedinodius menorah, because they inscribed the names on the menorahs, or the style of the inscription was by a menorah, right? Pedidonius menorah, the scribe Grammatius. This was the husband of Marina, the elder presbytera, wife of Pedidonius. So she was the elder, and her husband was a scribe. And the source is Female Leaderships by B. Bruton, page 217 and 218. All these examples of prominent women, elders and heads of the synagogues, being commemorated, being highly favored, highly honored in their history. Now, let's go to the next slide. Now you have another title known as the mother of the synagogue, which was of high repute. It says a Latin inscription from Rome, 3rd to 4th century, Vittoria Paula, placed in her eternal home, who lived 86 years, 6 months, a proselyte of 16 years under the name of Sarah, mother of the synagogues of Campus and Volumnius, in peace her sleep. And that's the source is Jewish Catacombs by A. Konikoff, pages 11 through 14. So again, we have another sister, and also she's a proselyte, right? And some people think, oh, proselyte means of another nation. No, that's not what a proselyte means. It means an Israelite that may have been born Greek or Roman or of any other persuasion and brought back into the tradition. And notice this, she was a mother of synagogues, plural. That's a very honorable title. And we see that being associated with this sister. Again, that cuts anybody saying that the Israelite tradition is misogynistic. Now let's deal with mater, right? Which just means mother. A Latin inscription, 4th century or earlier, Venetia and Brescia to Coelia Paterna, mother of the synagogue. So Coelia or Coelia is the mother of the synagogue of the Brescians. And the source is Italian Inscriptions by Agus Garcetti, page 135 to 136. So we see this sentiment being displayed over and over again. The prominent women being displayed over and over again. So we actually putting dirt over this grave now, man. We put the misogynistic claim in the casket. We're putting the dirt over the grave. Jabari says it again, he's a liar. So again, let's deal with another inscription. A columella, or columella, also called kioniskos, i.e. a small column, a flat on top and without a capital, used as a gravestone, embellished with a 7-branch menorah from Thebes in Pitotos and Thessaly, contains the following Greek inscription of an uncertain date. Tomb of Peristeria, leader. So this sister was a leader, right? And this was inscribed by menorah. Source Sucra N1 by M. Kramer, 218, number 87. That's where you can find that. Next and final slide. Phoebe. Let's deal with Sister Phoebe. Now, when you read the King James Version, it says, I commend unto you Phoebe, our sister, which is a servant of the church, which is at Centria. Right? Or Cenchrea. But we have to look into that word, which is translated as servant. The description, the word translated as servant is G1249, right? Which is diakonos. That's where you get the word deacon from. Therefore, we can deduce that Phoebe could be considered a deacon or deaconess. Now, why would she have this title if the Israelite tradition is so misogynistic? And they don't want no women, any woman that has a prominent role, they have a problem with it. Why? Why is this in here? I provided you 22 slides of proof and evidence. And with that, I conclude the lesson. Phoebe wouldn't be considered a diakonos if the tradition is against women. We had many wise and prominent women throughout our tradition. So I pray that this was insightful. I pray that you learn and you gain from this. Because you have a lot of wolves in sheep clothing out there that's trying to distract you and abduct you from the truth. I also want to take this time out to thank the subscribers, the viewership, because you have been supporting me immensely and giving me a lot of love on my channel. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing the video. I pray that you continue to do that, and I will continue to provide potent breakdowns, right? And informative breakdowns and lectures, so you can take notes and you can grow. And the scripture says a wise man or woman, in this case, adds to a sentence. So you can add to it. You can do your research. Like, okay, I found this. I found X, Y, and Z to precept this. So like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, share on the social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and let's get this message out there. Let's get Genesis 49 to spread to the four corners of the gospel so we can teach and raise the decayed state of our people and revive them back to their knowledge, their history, and most importantly, their identity. With that, I say shalom to the brothers and sisters abroad. Genesis 49ers signing off.